Okay, so I want to take you back to a really specific moment in time.
Yeah.
It's 1977. I want you to picture this. You're standing in the middle of the Bowery in New York City,
Okay.
and you push through this, like, graffiti-covered door into a club called CBGB's.
Oh, wow. Legendary.
The air is just thick. It hits you immediately. It smells like stale beer, sweat, cigarette smoke, and just this kind of electricity.
Yeah, I can almost smell it.
It's hot, it's crowded, and you're shoulder to shoulder with people in torn denim and leather.
This is ground zero of punk rock. This is the scene.
Exactly. Then the lights just cut out, a wall of feedback screeches through the amps, and it literally makes your teeth rattle.
Right.
And then 4 guys storm the stage. They look like they haven't slept in a week. They don't tune their instruments.
I no time for that.
They just count off 1, 2, 3, 4 and launch into this wall of sound. It's the Ramones. It's chaotic, it's fast, it's loud, but in the middle of all that noise, the lead singer, Joey Ramone, he screams a lyric that I think honestly hits harder today than it did 50 years ago.
You're thinking of something to believe in.
I am, yeah. The lyrics go, "Take my hand, please help me, man, because I'm looking for something to believe in, and I don't know where to start."
Wow. That is just a visceral cry for help, isn't it? It captures this really specific, hollow kind of anxiety.
And honestly, it sounds a lot like being in grade 12.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, think about it. You were standing on the edge of everything. You've spent 12 years in a system that told you exactly where to be, when to eat lunch, what to study.
Right. The guardrails are up.
The guardrails are up. And now you're about to leave. You might be moving out, traveling, starting a trade, going to university. You're definitely going to start voting.
And suddenly those guardrails are just gone.
Gone. And you have to figure out, what do I actually believe? Where do I fit in all this noise?
That is the pivotal moment of young adulthood, isn't it? It's that transition from accepting the world as your parents or your teachers explained it to defining it for yourself. It's a crisis of meaning. And that is exactly what we're diving into today. We aren't just talking about politics, we're exploring ideologies.
Now, hang on. Don't tune out, because ideology sounds like some vocabulary word from a dusty textbook.
Right.
We aren't just memorizing definitions today. I want you to think of ideology as like the operating system running in your brain.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
It's the software, right? You don't usually see it running, but it's telling you how the world works.
It's setting the rules in the background.
It tells you how people should treat each other, who deserves to be rich, who deserves to be poor, and what the future should look like.
And if your software is buggy,
your life is going to crash.
And historically, this software has always tried to answer 3 really massive fundamental questions. I mean, humans have been obsessing over these for centuries to build their ideologies.
Okay.
So the first one is the biggest. What are humans like? Deep down, are we naturally good, or are we, naturally dangerous?
Okay, that's a big one. What's the second?
Second, what is the nature of society? Is it a community playground where we all help each other out? Or is it more like a battlefield where only the strong survive?
Right. And the third?
The third question is, what is our role as individuals? Do we exist to serve ourselves and our own ambitions, or do we exist to serve the group?
So if you're feeling like the Ramones, looking for something to believe in and don't know where to start, these are the questions you have to answer for yourself. Today, we're going to tear apart this concept of ideology. We're going to look at the lenses you use to see the world, the philosophers who wrote the code, and maybe, just maybe, help you figure out what your own software looks like.
Let's get into it.
Okay, so let's unpack this by starting with the biggest specter of all. This is like the main toggle switch in the software. It's the tug of war between me and we.
This is the core tension in almost every single political and economic debate. So on one side, you have individualism, and this is a value system where the freedom, the rights, and the success of the single person, the individual, are the absolute top priority. It's all about autonomy.
And on the other side of that seesaw, you have
Collectivism.
exactly
Yeah.
collectivism.
Yeah.
And this is where you place the needs of the group, the collective, above the individual. It's about the team, the community, the country.
It's the idea that we are stronger together than we are apart.
But I mean, these definitions can feel a little abstract, can't they?
They can. So we have a way to test this right now. We've got a survey of sorts drawn from some social studies research that poses a few rapid-fire scenarios.
Ooh, okay.
And I want everyone listening to play along. Don't overthink it. Just go with your gut reaction.
All right, let's pressure test this.
Yeah.
Scenario A. Your assigned group project in school, the teacher says, get into groups of 4. Now be honest. Do you immediately think, great, things run better with a team, we can split the load? Or do you think, ugh, I hate relying on others because someone always slacks off and I'll end up doing all the work to save my grade?
This is such a classic test. If you leaned toward things run better with a team, or you felt relief at sharing the burden, that's a collectivist instinct.
Right.
You value cooperation. But if you immediately resented relying on others, or if you only trust your own work, that is a really strong individualist trait.
I feel like scenario A totally depends on who is in my group.
Fair enough.
If I'm with my friends, I'm a total collectivist. If I'm grouped with the guy who sleeps in class, I become a hardcore individualist immediately.
And that's actually a valid critique. It highlights that ideology can be contextual, right? You might be a socialist at the dinner table and a capitalist when you're negotiating a salary. But generally, what's your default? Trust or self-reliance?
Okay, fair point.
Okay.
Let's try scenario B. Think about your future wallet. Is life about working hard to achieve personal success and wealth for yourself and your family? Or do you believe that people who have wealth have a moral duty to share it, to fix society's problems, even if they worked really hard for it?
And this gets to the heart of economic ideology, keeping the money you earn for your own benefit. That's pure individualism.
Yeah.
Believing wealth is a tool that should be redistributed to solve social problems. That's collectivism.
Okay, last one. Scenario C rules. Do you believe you should follow school or society's rules because they exist for the good of everyone to keep order? Or if a rule is unfair to you personally, do you feel you have a right, maybe even a duty, to speak up and challenge it?
Obedience for the common good is a collectivist trait. It values stability.
Sure.
Challenging the system to protect your personal rights is deeply individualist.
Now here is the trick though. I bet almost no one listening answered 100% one way or the other.
No way.
You might love group work, but hate paying taxes.
Yeah.
You might be a rebel against rules, but believe in universal healthcare.
Precisely. And that is the gray area. Almost no one is a robot who is purely individualist or purely collectivist. Real life is just messy. Humans are complex.
Right. I mean, take the example of war. A person might be super individualistic. They own a business. They want the government to leave them alone. They value their privacy.
Sure.
But if their country is attacked, they might be the first person to sign up to fight.
Which is an inherently collectivist act. You are risking your individual life, the most precious thing you have, for the survival of the group. You're literally putting the we way above the me.
But sometimes society tries to force us out of that gray area, doesn't it? It tries to simplify the software. Remember that quote from President George W. Bush after the 9/11 attack?
Oh, yeah. It was a pivotal moment in global politics. He famously said, "You're either with us or against us in the fight against terror."
That's a rhetorical weapon. It's an attempt to erase the gray area.
Yeah, it forces a black and white choice.
It says you cannot be nuanced right now. Pick a side.
And while that might be necessary in a crisis, what we're saying today is that your everyday ideology, your personal software, is likely a mix. You might be an economic individualist, but a social collectivist. It's a spectrum, not a coin flip.
And knowing where you sit on that spectrum and why you sit there is the first step in understanding who you are. Which, speaking of which, let's talk about identity. If ideology is the software, identity is the hardware. It's the puzzle of you.
I love the puzzle metaphor. Imagine your identity as a big jigsaw puzzle. The tricky part is you didn't make all the pieces yourself. A lot of them were handed to you before you were even born.
So the question is, who built the puzzle of you? And we've got 4 main factors to look at here. First up is culture and heritage.
This is a massive one. The beliefs, customs, and practices of the group you're born into, they shape you before you can even speak. It sets your baseline for what normal is.
There's a really fascinating story about the painter William Kurelek that illustrates this perfectly. He was a Ukrainian Albertan artist. Now, his parents were hardworking immigrants, farmers on the prairies. They had a very utilitarian view of life. They actually discouraged his art.
Right, they wanted him to be practical, to work the land, to survive.
Exactly.
And that's a classic immigrant narrative conflict, right? The parents are focused on survival, which is a kind of family collectivism, and the child is focused on self-expression, which is individualism.
But what's so interesting is that Kurelek's ideology and his success, it all ended up being deeply shaped by that very upbringing. His art is famous worldwide for depicting his Ukrainian roots and his childhood on the prairies.
It's ironic, isn't it? The culture that tried to suppress his art became the fuel for his art.
Yeah.
It shows that living as a minority culture, like the early Ukrainians in the Canadian West, it often strengthens your identity. You feel a stronger need to protect and express who you are because you're surrounded by a different majority. You don't take your identity for granted.
Okay, so that's culture. Factor number 2, language.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean like vocabulary words. I mean language as a lens.
Absolutely. Language isn't just a tool for describing the world. It actually shapes how you think about the world. It's a worldview. And that's why there has been such a fierce fight for language rights throughout history.
Like the Francophone communities in Canada fighting for education in French.
Exactly.
It's not just about learning grammar, it's about preventing assimilation. If you lose the language, you lose the concepts and the history that live inside those words. You lose a massive chunk of your identity.
And we see this so profoundly with indigenous languages as well. I mean, take Inuktitut in Nunavut.
Right.
For a long time, digital technology keyboards, operating systems, they didn't support syllabic languages like the symbols used in Cree or Oji Cree.
Right.
It basically forced people to communicate in English.
Wow.
But now, the Nunavut government is committed to making Inuktitut a working language, using technology to revitalize it rather than erase it.
There's this beautiful quote from the Hay River Dean Reserve that really stuck with me. They started a program teaching the children their traditional language, South Slavey. And the elders watched these kids who had previously been struggling, and they noticed a change almost immediately. They said the children became calm and confident.
Calm and confident. That is the power of identity right there. When you have the words to describe your world as your ancestors did, you feel grounded. You know where you fit.
Okay, factor number 3 is a big one for teenagers, and let's be honest, for us too. Media and advertising.
Oh, yeah. And here we have to introduce a heavyweight thinker, Marshall McLuhan. He was an Edmonton-born philosopher who just dropped a bomb on the world of communications in the 1960s with the phrase, "The medium is the message."
I've heard that a million times, but let's be real, it's confusing. Break that down for us. What did the medium is the message actually mean?
It means that how you receive information changes you more than what the information is.
Okay.
So think about TikTok. The content of the videos doesn't matter as much as the medium itself. Fast, algorithmic, short attention span, endless scrolling. That medium rewires your brain to expect instant gratification. It turns the world into what he called a global village, where we're all connected but also all distracted.
And advertisers are the absolute masters of this. They use media to hack our values. And we have to talk about Joe Camel.
Ah, yes. The infamous Camel Cigarettes campaign.
For those who haven't seen this, just imagine a cartoon character. He's a camel, but he's wearing sunglasses, a leather jacket. He's playing cool, surrounded by beautiful people. He looks like James Dean.
This was a deliberate manipulation. The tobacco company wasn't just selling cigarettes. They were selling cool. They were selling an identity of rebellion and masculinity.
And they were targeting it specifically at youth.
Mm-hmm.
It worked so well that it became a huge scandal. It led to legal bans because it was so predatory. But the critical question for students listening is this. Does the media reflect who you are, or does it tell you who to be?
Ooh, that's a good question.
When you see images of body types on Instagram, or you feel like you need that specific brand of shoes to be valid, are you choosing that value? Or was it programmed into you by a boardroom of adults trying to make money?
It's a scary thought. It implies our puzzle pieces are actually being sold to us.
So that brings us to factor number 4, gender.
Gender roles are a huge part of ideological programming. We are told from a very young age how men should act and how women should act. But the good news is, unlike some computer code, this can be rewritten.
And we have the incredible story of the famous 5. In the early 20th century, the legal definition of person in Canada, it actually did not include women.
Which sounds completely absurd today, but it was the law.
So Emily Murphy was appointed as a judge in Alberta in 1917, the first female judge in the entire British Empire.
Wow.
But male lawyers would walk into her courtroom and challenge her authority. They would say, literally, you are not a person under the law, so you can't be a judge.
Unbelievable. So Murphy and 4 other women, the famous 5, they fought the persons case. They took it all the way to the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council in Britain, and in 1929, they won. They fundamentally changed the software of society.
And you contrast that with Kuwait, We think of the fight for voting rights as old history, but in Kuwait, women were fighting for the right to vote and run for office in 2005 and 2006.
It just shows that gender rules are learned, but they can be changed through political movements like feminism. Your ideology about gender isn't fixed, it evolves as society evolves.
Okay, so we've got our spectrum me versus we. We've got our identity puzzle. Now let's get into the heavy hitters, the philosophers. These are the guys who wrote the original code.
Yeah, these are the thinkers who sat down and tried to answer that first big question we asked. Are humans naturally good or bad?
I want everyone listening to do a little thought experiment with us. Imagine a state of nature.
Okay.
Just close your eyes. Imagine there are no laws, no police, no schools, no parents, no government, just humans in the wild. What happens? Do we hold hands, sing songs, and share berries? Or do we start hitting each other with rocks to steal the berries?
And depending on your answer to that question, you're probably going to align with one of these three major philosophers. First up, Thomas Hobbes.
Hobbes is,
Yeah,
let's call him the trauma survivor.
that's fair. He lived during the English Civil War in the 1600s. He looked out his window and he saw chaos, beheadings, neighbors killing neighbors. He was terrified.
Right.
So Hobbes believed that in a state of nature, without a government to stop us, human life would be, in his famous words, nasty, brutish, and short.
That is a bleak worldview. So he basically thinks we're just driven by fear.
Exactly. He believed we are naturally selfish, violent, and competitive, a war of all against all. So his solution was drastic. He said we need a leviathan.
Like a sea monster.
A metaphorical monster, a strong, all-powerful leader, a dictator, or a king who scares us into behaving.
Okay.
Hobbes argued that we should willingly trade our freedom for security. We give up our rights to the king, and in exchange, he keeps us from killing each other.
So if you're walking down a dark alley and you're terrified of strangers, you're tapping into your inner Hobbes.
You are.
Okay, who's next?
John Locke. We'll call him the architect of democracy.
This sounds a bit more chill.
Much more. Locke looked at humans and didn't see monsters. He saw reason. He believed humans are intelligent and rational. He didn't think we were perfect, but he thought we could mostly get along. He believed we have natural rights to life, liberty, and property.
So if we're so reasonable, why do we even need a government at all?
Just to protect those specific things. The government is like a referee or a security guard. It's not a master, it's an employee.
Right.
And here is Locke's revolutionary idea. If the government fails to protect your rights or starts acting like a tyrant,
Yeah,
the people have the right to fire them.
that sounds like the basis of the American Revolution.
It is. Thomas Jefferson basically copied Locke's homework when he wrote the Declaration of Independence.
Okay, third batter up. Jean-Jacques Rousseau.
The romantic idealist. Rousseau had this famous opening line in his book, "Man is born free, and everywhere he is in chains."
Ooh, very dramatic.
He completely flipped the script. He believed humans are naturally good. He thought that in the state of nature, we were happy, compassionate, and free.
So if we were so happy, what went wrong?
Civilization, and specifically, private property.
Ah.
Rousseau believed that the moment someone fenced off a piece of land and said, "This is mine," it created jealousy, greed, and inequality. He believed society corrupted us.
So what's his solution? A time machine?
Close. He wanted a return to the general will of the people. He advocated for direct democracy. He didn't want us to just elect some representative to decide for us. He wanted the community to decide together, acting as one collective body.
Okay.
He wanted to strip away the corruption of modern society to get back to that natural goodness.
So quick recap for everyone listening.
Yeah.
If you think humans are scary and need a boss to survive, you're Hobbes. If you think humans are reasonable and just need a referee to protect their stuff, you're Locke. Right. And if you think humans are awesome but society messed us up with greed, you're Rousseau.
Precisely. And your view on human nature usually determines what kind of government you support. If you fear people, you want a police state. If you trust people, you want a democracy.
Which transitions us perfectly to the next layer of ideology, money. How do we structure our work and our economy? Because how we make money defines so much of how we live.
And we're going to do a deep dive into capitalism.
This is the water we all swim in. It's the system most of us in the West live in, and it's based heavily on individualism.
Right. The key thinker here is Adam Smith, who wrote The Wealth of Nations. The core components are private property, the profit motive, and competition. And importantly, the concept of laissez-faire.
And that's French for leave it alone, right?
Basically, it means the government should keep its hands off the economy. Just let businesses compete. Let the market decide.
Okay, so let's weigh the scales. What are the bright side of capitalism?
Well, first, incentive. If you get to keep the profit, you work harder. It rewards innovation.
True. If I invent a better mousetrap or a better iPhone, I get rich.
Exactly. And that competition forces better quality and lower prices for everyone else. Think about the sheer variety of goods in a grocery store or the incredible technology in your pocket. That abundance is the result of companies fighting for your dollar.
And it promotes self-reliance, personal responsibility.
Yeah. But there is a dark side. We have to talk about the cons.
We do.
The biggest one is inequality. In a pure capitalist system, it's a winner-take-all game. If you can't compete, maybe you're sick or elderly or just unlucky, you can fall into extreme poverty while others have extreme wealth.
Plus, you have the boom and bust cycles, recessions, the Great Depression. The economy is a roller coaster that can throw a lot of people off.
And we can't forget manipulation. Remember Joe Camel?
Right.
In a system driven purely by profit, companies will do whatever it takes to sell, even if it hurts the consumer.
I want to zoom in on the dark side for a second because the history here is just brutal. We talk about individualism and free markets like they are these polite dinner conversations.
Yeah.
But in the 19th and early 20th centuries, before we had strong regulations, pure capitalism was a nightmare for a lot of people. We need to talk about the oyster shuckers.
This is a devastating piece of history. We have reports from the era describing 5-year-old boys working in canneries.
5 years old. Just think about a kindergartner.
Yeah.
These kids were running barefoot on mounds of cracked, jagged oyster shells.
Just retrieving buckets of shellfish.
And the source material describes the bilious fluid from the oysters. It's acidic. It would just eat into their skin. The description says they would stand there for hours, shucking oysters until their fingers bled and their hands were raw and swollen.
And for what? For 30 cents a day?
Then there were the berry pickers. They were called the hullers. Children working from sunrise to sunset, stained with juice, just utterly exhausted.
Earning 2 cents a quart.
2 cents.
This is the uncomfortable truth of unbridled individualism. In a pure laissez-faire system, that child is a free agent selling their labor. The factory owner is a free agent buying it.
It's a contract, theoretically.
Yeah. Theoretically, it's a consensual contract. But in reality, it's exploitation.
Which is insanity. It highlights that the freedom to starve isn't much of a freedom at all. This is where the collective conscience, had to step in. This is why we have labor laws and minimum wages and safety standards.
It raises that fundamental question. Is a completely free market worth it if it allows that kind of suffering? Most modern societies have decided, no, we want the innovation of capitalism, but with the safety net of collectivism.
Now, just to contrast this, let's look at a totally different way of structuring society, the caste system in India.
This is so fascinating because it challenges our whole Western idea of mobility. In capitalism, the American dream is that anyone can get rich if they work hard.
Right.
In a caste system, your role is hereditary. You are born into it.
So if you were born into a lower caste, that's just it, no matter how smart or hardworking you are.
Traditionally, yes, it's a very rigid structure. We see this with the Dalit, who were formerly known as untouchables. They were relegated to the lowest jobs in society.
But India is a democracy now, so how does that fit?
It's a massive tension. The government has introduced affirmative action reserving university seats and government jobs for lower castes to try and break the cycle of poverty.
But that must cause pushback.
Huge pushback. You have upper caste students saying, wait a minute, admission should be based on merit and grades, not birth.
That's the individualist argument.
And then you have Dalit students saying, we've been oppressed for 3,000 years, we need a level playing field. And that's the collectivist argument. It's a perfect example of how these ideologies clash in the real world.
So we've got all these competing ideas, me versus we, Hobbes versus Rousseau, profit versus equality. I mean, it feels like a lot. How do we actually live with this? How do we balance it?
And this brings us to the Balancing Act. And we have a fantastic Canadian example to look at, Grant McEwen.
I know the name from the university in Edmonton, but who was he really?
He was the lieutenant governor of Alberta, so the Queen's representative. A very high-ranking, prestigious official. But his life was this incredible mix of personal discipline and community service.
The stories about him are legendary. He was a bit of a character. He jogged early every morning, winter or summer. He ate porridge for breakfast every single day.
That's the discipline.
And when he was the lieutenant governor, he refused to ride in the back of the fancy government limousine. He sat up front with the driver.
He did. There was a story where he was driving or being driven down a highway, and saw a bus stuck in a ditch.
Mm-hmm.
Now, most politicians would drive by or maybe call for help on a radio. Grant McEwen gets out of the car in his suit and helps two teenagers push the bus out of the ditch.
And the story about the cleaner.
Yes. A cleaner arrived late at night to clean his office, but she was clearly sick. She shouldn't have been working. So Grant McEwen, the lieutenant governor, told his driver to take her home so she could rest.
Wow.
And then he rolled up his sleeves and cleaned the office himself.
That is just a class act.
Jack Watson calls this Canadianism. It's the balance. McEwen was an individualist in his personal habits. Self-reliant, hardworking, didn't want special treatment.
Right.
But he was a collectivist in his duty. He believed in leaving the community better than he found it.
He didn't think he was too important to push a bus or clean a floor.
Exactly. He proves that you don't have to be just one thing. You can build an ideology that takes the best of both worlds. You can be ambitious and kind. You can be successful and generous.
So let's bring this all home. We started with the Ramones in a sweaty club looking for something to believe in. We've covered a lot of ground since then.
We have. We've seen that ideologies are lenses, individualism and collectivism. They change how we interpret everything from a group project to a war.
We've seen that your identity puzzle is built by your culture, your language, the media that bombards you, and your gender. You didn't make all the pieces, but you have to put them together.
We've looked at the philosophers. Whether you agree with Hobbes that we need control or Rousseau that we need freedom, that shapes the kind of government you vote for.
And we've looked at economics. Capitalism brings incredible innovation and freedom, but history shows us it can also bring exploitation if we don't have a collective conscience to protect the vulnerable.
The big takeaway here is that your ideology isn't static. It's not a tattoo. It's software, and it changes as you learn, as you experience things, as you meet new people.
Before we let you go, though, we have to do a quick check your understanding. I'm going to throw 3 scenarios at you. I want you to answer them in your head. Test your software.
Go for it.
Question 1. You're walking home alone at night. You see a group of strangers. Your heart rate spikes. You cross the street because you assume they might hurt you. In that split second, which philosopher is running your brain? Hobbes, Locke, or Rousseau?
Think about the fear. That is pure Hobbes. You are assuming the state of nature is dangerous.
Okay. Question 2. You're scrolling through your phone. You see an ad that points out a flaw you didn't know you had. Maybe your teeth aren't white enough, just to sell you a product. Which concept does this illustrate? The general will or the medium is the message?
That connects right back to media influence and Marshall McLuhan. It's the medium is the message. The media itself is shaping your values and your insecurities.
All right, last one. Question 3. If a country decides that every citizen deserves free health care, regardless of how much money they make, because the health of the group is more important than the wealth of the individual, where does that fall on the spectrum? Individualism or collectivism?
Prioritizing the group over the individual is a definition of collectivism.
All right. We've unpacked the software of your brain.
And my final thought for you is this. Don't just accept the software you were installed with. Don't just believe what your parents believe or what the algorithm feeds you.
The Ramones didn't know where to start, but now you do. So ask yourself, why do I believe what I believe? Is it because I thought about it or because Joe Camel sold it to me?
Keep questioning.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll catch you next time.